It's a good way of thinking about these things because each individual response will be different. And what I've learned in the last few days, that particularly in Nigeria, depending on your culture and tradition, it may be very different. So in some area of the country, the poverty is sexist agenda may challenge disinheritance, which is a real problem for women. In another area of the culture, it may kind of encourage an artist not to be so demeaning of women in the way they portray them in a song or a film. In another area of the country, it may foster an environment where banking becomes easier if there are two signatures in a marriage. That's something I'd love to see. Imagine if you had a better deal if there was two signatures on every bank loan. And I'll bet you there is mathematical evidence to suggest that families where the woman and the man are in collusion in even domestic finances are better borrowers than just one. That's just an example. I'm Irish. Remember, Ireland has a colonial history also. There's a book by Franz Fanon, something like that, about surviving colonialization. It's very interesting. It talks about the emasculation of the male and how cultures post-colonialism tend to be more violent and more sexual. And it's very interesting read. But I think Ireland has a deep interest in the injustice of extreme poverty, because until very recently, we were in extreme poverty. So Irish people in Africa are very similar. You know, I think we're fun. I think, you know, we like to drink. We're quite religious. Unfortunately, we can't dance. That's where you might have us. Not great on the dance floor, the Irish. Pretty good soccer players and rugby players. But I think there's shared annoyance at injustice. Now, I am not moved by charity yet. We in BON are moved by justice. It is clear when we're talking about girls' education or something like that, that if this country could just recover the stolen monies from oil and gas, you could pay for every girl, not just in Nigeria, but every girl on the continent to go to school. You could pay for roads to connect every country on the continent, and probably broadband. So the lie of poverty is that it just happened to you. Oh my gosh, you were born to the wrong family or in the wrong neighborhood. But the truth of extreme poverty is it's structural. I mean, sometimes it's a famine or a conflict, but mostly it's structural. Keeping people poor is the question we have to ask. You know, why are people kept in poverty? And when one class benefits and the majority of people who live in a civilization or a culture don't, you can ask people questions about that. And what I'm optimistic for two reasons. There's great innovation happening on the continent. Technology, meeting a lot of smart young entrepreneurs, and it's not just that they're going to throw off the old nepotism and the old ways. They are. But what's more interesting is the technologies that they're bringing into Nigeria are technologies that are turbocharging transparency. Because the drive of information technology is towards information, more information. that can sometimes be annoying when people know too much about you, or you know, these big tech companies know too much about you. But it's harder to hide, it's harder to steal. There's a demand from the population now that government budgets be open and transparent. And there's now access to seeing them. And civil society is growing a response to that access by teaching people what these numbers mean. Follow the Money is a hit song in the One office. And I don't know if you know, but we've 7 million members around the world. 3 million of them are in Africa. And in fact, Nigeria is 2.2 million. Africa is a bigger ownership of One than Europe. And anyway, the kind of the social movement that's growing with One and others, I think is going to change things and make a much better, more inclusive wealth for the continent.